can't hear us, we're not saying anything.
That's true.
Can you hear us?
I have to ask her to unmute herself, but she's not.
Yeah, I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
Oh, there we go.
Now,
All right.
we can hear you now.
Yeah,
Can you hear
it
me
wasn't
now?
allowing me to unmute myself, but I think Tom just fixed that. So thank you.
Awesome. You're all set?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, then we'll go. All right, it is
Great.
6:04 on June 8th, 2023. And I'm going to call the meeting of Clackamas River Water Board of Commissioners to order. If you would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
We'll do our best.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Karen, would you roll call, please?
Commissioner Anger. Here. Commissioner Danell.
Here.
Commissioner French.
Here.
Commissioner Garrison.
Here.
Commissioner Rubischen.
Here.
All present.
Okay. All right, this time I would look for a motion for approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
And I second.
That's the motion.
Okay,
It doesn't matter.
Commissioner Anger.
Yes,
Commissioner Danell.
Yes.
Commissioner French.
yes,
Commissioner Garrison.
Yes.
Commissioner Rubischen.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
okay. Now I'm going to recess the regular meeting. Regular meeting is recessed, and I will look for a motion to open the budget hearing.
I move that we open the budget hearing.
Second the motion.
Okay, Karen, please.
Commissioner Anger.
Yes,
Commissioner Danell.
Yes.
Commissioner French.
Yes.
Commissioner Garrison.
Yes.
Commissioner Rubischen.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, I'm gonna ask a question. Oh,
I was gonna give brief presentations and then.
oh, shoot. I'm sorry, I jumped. All right. The hearing of the Clackamas River Water Board of Commissioners, pursuant to order ORS 192.640, 294.438, and 294.453 to allow members of the public an opportunity to testify regarding the CRW budget is approved by the Budget Committee on April 27, 2023, for the biennium July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2025. Budget hearing will be closed by board action and considered for approval in agenda item 1, public comment. Do we have any public comment? Karen, nothing? Ken?
I'm just here to make sure that it gets done.
Okay.
Gotta like that. So I just have a brief presentation.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so I'm gonna actually keep this fairly brief. Just given the fact that everybody in the room, and I think with the exception of Kevin, participated in the budget committee process. And so tonight is really the final step, where you've gone through an exhaustive process to get to this point where we hold a budget hearing. And then technically your final step is when we're back in the business meeting where we'll ask you to approve the resolution. So I do want to point out though, before I start, is that this is really a culmination of probably over 6 months of effort. And so this is not something we take lightly when we're developing the biennial budget. I want to really start by thanking a number of folks. One, I know this may be a little odd, but I want to thank Jason Kirkpatrick, our former CFO. He did a lot of work to make sure that we had a budget document that he could hand off to me before he left. And so I was very appreciative of that. I also want to recognize Ted Abora. He's one of our senior finance and accounting staff that really took on the role of trying to help me in getting the budget to this finish line. And so a lot of the documents, as far as the LB1 form that you have before you, those are things that he worked on. But I don't want to discount the fact that we had many others. Christina Day, another senior finance accountant, did a lot of work in preparing of the budget. And so really those two, in addition to Jason, did a lot of the heavy lifting to prepare the document. But we had a number of other folks in our finance staff that participated as well. And then I do want to make sure that I am also recognizing the management team. Early on in the process, I put a lot of emphasis on them to develop and respond to questions that I have and direction and address some of the things that we want to focus. And so I guess what I really want to stress is that this is a result of a pretty significant team effort. And so I want to just start off by thanking everybody that had the wherewithal to kind of stick with it and put this together. And then last but not least, I want to thank the whole budget committee. That includes not only you, all of you, but also the members of the public, or our 5 public members as well. Again, one of those things where we really appreciate taking the time and to really go through the document. I think the budget committee, everybody's assessment was pretty thorough review and some great questions. So I just want to start that way. So as far as tonight, frankly, I'm going to run through these first slides really fast because you've seen them before. And I just want to stress here that the fact that we do have a strategic plan. We have 3 strategic goals. And I just want to confirm with the board that this budget is things that allow us to make progress. We make progress on the one as far as ensuring the reliable water supply for our communities we serve by investing in infrastructure and emergency preparedness. We spent a lot of time at the budget committee talking about the CIP and frankly an aggressive CIP and moving forward with some of these improvements and the role and the steps that we're taking as it relates to improvements with emergency preparedness for our organization. We also talked about the challenges that we've had with supply chain issues and making things move forward. And so the opportunity here is that frankly, we didn't accomplish as much this last biennial budget and our capital improvements program, but we're really planning to bump that up because frankly, we have a number of things that are already in the works and are already moving forward, which is good news. Second goal I just want to stress is that as being a water district of choice for attracting, developing, and retaining highly qualified workforce by providing safe, healthy, rewarding environment that values employees. Let's face it, we couldn't accomplish this without skilled, trained employees. Now, as a board, you've heard me mention every meeting the challenges. We are facing that retirement tsunami. It's not that we're facing it, it's hit. And so the challenges that are going with that. The good news is we've had some pretty good success in filling positions, but the bad news is we still have more work to do. And so this budget will help support as we move forward in those areas as well. And so the budget reflects progress to be made in this area as well. And then last is the heightened public awareness of the district's role in enhancing public health, community vitality, and economic growth. Now, as I said during the budget committee, you would hope that our public understands that, given heat domes, given wildfires, given ice storms, given the variety of natural disasters that we've had to overcome this last budget period. But unfortunately, that's not always the case. So it's really important for us to continue to make sure that people understand the value that we provide, the service that we provide, and the importance of that, not only well, to all of you and us as well. So the budget builds on those opportunities. Right now, we rely a lot on partnerships with respect to that. And so this will help us continue to move forward with that. So let's get into the numbers. So what you have in your resolution is those are the repeats of the numbers from there. So on your general fund, you have all these different line items, the personal services, materials and services, capital outlay, the transfers. That's the challenge with public budgeting is, thank you, is with, you have to account for those transfers to other funds. And so those are appropriations that have to be made. The last piece is also to remind you that there's more than just the general fund. We have the capital improvement project fund. We have the SBC reserve fund, and we have the revenue bonds fund. And so the appropriations are all outlined there. I'm happy to go through in more detail, but it's one of those things that it's all outlined in the LB1 and the LB31 form that's in your packet as well. So with that, public comment, I don't believe we have anybody online to submit comments, and so you don't have to really deal with too much of that. Obviously, if anybody here is interested in providing comment, this would be an opportunity to do that. And then if there isn't any, then the board can move forward. Unless there's any questions for me, can move forward in closing the hearing. Simple as that.
I just want to make a comment, within the budget book, there's a page that lists kind of a recognition that that document gets for being thorough and transparent and, just kind of following all the guidelines that are recommended for our industry. And I'm really proud to be part of that. I guess when I look at something of that magnitude and see that kind of quality, the people that you mentioned at the beginning of this, I can see they all rolled up their sleeves and did a great job. So it's really an outstanding document.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
We will be submitting this one for the award again, so.
You should.
Is that the final time we have to talk about it? July? Maybe? Okay. All right, moving on. Okay,
So if there's any,
questions or
if
comments?
there's no comments, then you can close close the public hearing.
I'll move to close the budget hearing and reconvene the regular meeting.
Second the motion.
Okay.
Commissioner Andrew,
Yes.
Commissioner Danell,
Yes.
Commissioner French,
Yes,
Commissioner Garrison,
Yes.
Commissioner Rubichin,
Yes.
motion passes unanimously.
all right, thank you. Now I ask for public comment. Do we have any further public comment? No? Okay, we'll move right on. Now on to the consent agenda, but I do want clarification on the consent agenda. The first two have to do with payroll and position, or cash position. The third one is the vacate easement. Should we separate them to vote on them?
You don't have to, at a consent agenda, you can do it all at once, or if there's something that you want to discuss more, then it would be good to pull that from the consent agenda.
Okay, is there any discussion on anything on the consent agenda that the commissioners want to talk about?
The one thing I'll note is just to make sure you're aware, you do have purple sheets in your
Right.
board pack folder that have the updated, we didn't have the financials at the time the pack was developed, so.
So,
Okay.
nothing, okay, well then at this time I will accept a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second the motion.
Commissioner Andrew,
Yes.
Commissioner Danell,
Yes.
Commissioner French,
Yes.
Commissioner Garrison,
Yes.
Commissioner Rubichin,
Yes.
motion passes unanimously.
All right, thank you, everyone. Now we're moving into the action items. Number one is to consider approval of resolution 14/2023, adoption of biennial budget and make appropriations for the biennial budget for 2023-2025. Todd.
I have nothing more to add.
Thank God.
I move to approve resolution number 14-2023, adopting the budget and making appropriations for the 2023 to 2025 biennium.
Okay, is there any further discussion on that? Do I have a second?
Second the motion.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Going once, all right then.
Commissioner Andrew,
Yes.
Commissioner Danell,
Yes.
Commissioner French,
Yes,
Commissioner Garrison,
Yes.
Commissioner Rubichin,
Yes.
motion passes unanimously.
all right, thank you, everyone. Believe me, that's a lot easier than some people have had with their districts. Okay, we're moving right along to number two, consider approval for resolution 15-2023, approved utility billing bad debt write-off for fiscal year 2022-23 uncollectible water bills. Todd.
All right, good evening again, commissioners. So this is an action that we ask you to take annually, where what we do is we ask you to approve prior to doing the year-end close, approve the removal of some debt that we find doubtful that we'll be able to collect. This is debt that we've been maintaining on the books for over a year roughly. And so again, this is one of these things that every year we go through a process where we've actually taken a number of steps in order to collect this debt. Involves you know, obviously to the point of notices and calls and then eventually we get to a point where we shut people off and then we try to pursue. Finally, if that doesn't work, we also eventually can, well, after you do it, pursue collections on that. The challenge is, you know, in some instances, there's a variety of reasons why we are not able to collect. So a lot of people will move out without telling us and leaving an address. We often have instances where maybe a business goes out of business and leaves and doesn't pay. And so you can see the list included on your exhibit B. The thing I want to point out today is the fact that the number of accounts is actually similar to last year, but the dollar amount is higher. And frankly, this is one of those things that the board had a conscious discussion during COVID. And this is a period that does involve the COVID period about not doing shutoffs during that period. And so really what we experienced was the instance where people frankly developed higher balances on their bills. Now, I know the amount that we're asking you to write off, the over 23,000 is frankly our highest amount that we've had to write off. But I've been talking to a lot of other utilities that we actually did better than most, it
That's
sounds
good.
like.
That's true.
Compared to the past. And frankly, that was a lot of, again, credit to the board with allowing us to kind of ease into that shut off process a little bit sooner. The one thing, so, and I know I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but one thing to kind of help illustrate this point is you have a monthly update that we include in the packet. And as part of that packet, or as part of those updates on page 6 is we do talk about shut-off statistics on the bottom.
Oh.
And I think what it is interesting to note is kind of illustrating that point where you'll notice there was a pretty considerable spike that was taking place during that COVID period.
Oh, yeah.
And so that kind of illustrates and reaffirms kind of what we're seeing with respect to the bad debt write-off. So there's a couple different ways to look at that. I will note that even though we do ask you to write this off as bad debt, we do continue to try to collect. So we haven't given up, but we do assign that over to a collection agency. And so any revenue that they're able to receive after they take their fee out, we receive. And so, you know, we don't receive a lot, but we normally receive a little bit on that. So with that, I'll be happy to respond to any questions.
Any questions or comments? Rusty?
I just wanted to note that looking at the close date on these, the spend is from the last quarter of 2020 through the first quarter of 2022. So you've got a span of about 18 months over which these were closed. So that reasonably would reflect a higher amount too.
So most of it should be, it follows a fiscal year. So it's that, should be that July 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. So it's that period.
Well, there is a 2020.
There is a 2020, correct.
The big one.
So that must have been one we tried to keep on the books to continue.
So
Okay.
That had an interesting, challenging story. So, I don't know if it matters on anything, but yeah, this is actually somebody that we had spent a lot of time working with, and unfortunately, there was probably a condition that person had that made it difficult in the end. So.
All right. That's all I have.
Yeah.
So Todd, what percent does CRW get from the collection
I
company?
was wondering the same.
So their fee is 17.5%. So we get the remainder. unless there's a garnishment piece, and then it's a higher percentage.
And are they authorized to negotiate a lesser amount?
It's through our state contract, so it's one of a lot of different agencies. The firm is a place that uses lots of different agencies. I guess I don't know if they can negotiate anything.
So like this $4,000 one, if the person said, I'm willing to pay 2,000 of it.
Gotcha, yes.
And we're even, so they would take 17% of the $2,000 and we would get the balance.
Correct.
Okay.
Sorry, I misunderstood the question first, so.
And just so I'm tracking, there is no, there's no insurance or anything on bad debt. So these revenues come out of the revenue collected from the responsible ratepayers. And so the $22,000 is basically a tax on responsible ratepayers to offset people that have been responsible.
Yeah, so it's revenue that we're not gonna receive.
Yeah.
So,
And I bring that point up, so if the board gets to a point where they have a decision about shut off in the future, this is one of those cases where there's no free money. So it's someone else isn't paying, but we pay for it.
Kind of like car insurance.
Well, it's kind of like grocery store.
Yeah, that's
You
true.
go in the grocery store and someone says, I'm not gonna pay it. The cashier says, okay, the next person pays it, and the next person's you.
Yeah.
So, and Todd, I think you mentioned that every number has a story. And I think that's important for us to hear. But as we looked at it, just 3 customers amounted to about 30% of the bad debt. So.
yeah. The good news is I'm hoping that we're poised to do better in the future. Like I said, it was real eye-opening as far as the impact of kind of the COVID process and not shutting people off. We're not Portland.
Right. Well, I sent you an article a number of months ago from Portland, and they had a $10 million bad debt.
Wow.
And I guess the reason I made my previous comment was their person in charge of the bad debt, their explanation was, well, we'll just pass that on to all the ratepayers.
Oh, God.
And that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
I know they're a much bigger water district, but for them to forgive $10 million and push it on the backs of people that were responsible, it just didn't seem like a right resolution to me, so.
There is one thing I'll just point out real quick is just to kind of, I'm a big person trying to put things in sense of scale. And so our water supply revenue is about 15 million.
Yeah.
And so we're talking
Nothing.
a pretty small
Really,
fraction.
I mean, it
This
sounds,
is outstanding.
personally, it would be, but yeah. Can you let me
Yeah.
say, Rusty?
Yeah, the bad debt rate for this period was 0.15%, which is $1.50 per $1,000 of revenue. Do we know how that compares with other periods of write-off? About the same?
So a little higher. So I don't have this graphic, or in your packet or anything, but this kind of illustrates, to give you an example, the 17,000 was the highest last time, so 23 would be up here. So it is from a percentage standpoint, our revenues are a lot higher, our revenues are higher every year too. And so it's, I did not calculate a percentage each year,
Okay,
but it's probably a little higher than what we experienced, but not a ton higher with that.
thank you.
How's that for imprecise?
And Todd, I think, did you say that the COVID forgiveness period has been?
Yeah, it's done.
Yeah, we stopped that. Yeah.
Yeah, a while ago.
Quite a while ago, wasn't it?
Yeah,
True, oh, that's a great, yes, thank you, Bob. So I want to be clear on the COVID period, it was just, we suspended shut-offs. We
Right,
didn't
that's right.
forgive, people still owed the money, they were still responsible for paying it. Unfortunately, what happened though is people who you have challenges collecting from had a tendency to run up higher bills because they got to run up higher bills for a longer period. And then when they left,
Right.
that was the impact.
And I understand that it's not easy to put a lien on the property. So, legal.
Yeah, I can't talk now at the meeting.
So, I know our CCNRs in our neighborhood, the CCNRs go with the property, not the owner. So when people sell their property, the new owner has an obligation to adhere to those CCNRs. But I guess I'm more concerned with someone leaving the water district and then intentionally running up a bill either through 24-hour, turn the spigots on and just
And that's happened.
flood the field because they have a bone to pick with the water department. And if it doesn't go back to the property, then that's money that the district just loses.
Yeah, but that's something you can't control, and I don't think it's necessarily a problem with the water district. It would be more like against the landlord or something like that. People do really weird things, but we have no recourse.
Yeah.
So. We're kind of stuck at. Anything else?
Yeah, and that's why I asked, unless there was a lien against the property, then.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever put a lien on property, right?
And it sounds like it's. it
Bob's
would be
going.
Costly
No,
to
no.
do.
It is almost always not cost effective to pursue liens. And there are significant administrative hurdles when you're dealing with situations where the customer is a renter and not the property owner.
Yeah.
To have that debt attributed to the property owner, there are legal hoops that have to be jumped through. And so for the vast majority of these accounts, the amount that is owed would never make it worthwhile to go through that.
Anything else? Anyone? No?
Okay,
Councilman?
No,
No? Okay. Yeah, just shake your head or somewhere.
I move to approve resolution number 15-2023 bad debt write-off for FY 2022-23 uncollected water bills.
Second the motion.
All right, is there any further discussion? Okay,
Commissioner Andrew,
Yes,
Commissioner Danell,
yes,
Commissioner French,
yes.
Commissioner Garrison,
Yes,
Commissioner Rubishek.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, we are down to number 3, which is the management report. Todd?
All right, a couple things I just want to point out in your folder. You have the most recent CRW bill insert that will be sent with bills at the end of the month. So just make you aware of that. Glad you adopted the budget because we had an article in there about you adopting the budget, so that all worked out.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, that would have been bad if
Is
not.
that the cart before the horse?
Yeah, well, we can follow from the premise. Second thing I do is you have a printed copy of the Consumer Confidence Report, referred to as CCR or Water Quality Report. This is something that we're required to do every year. Actually, soon to be, we'll be required to do it twice a year. This is part of the Safe Drinking Water Act. And, the idea is to notify and to provide information to our customers on what we've monitored, what we've found, those type of things. And so it's an opportunity our requirement is to prepare the report, to notify our customers of the availability of the report, and then to make it available to them if they would like to have a copy. We do post this online, so it's available. It'll also be as part of the bill insert. You'll see a little article there that people can scan the QR code and download it. I do want to give out a huge thank you to Tracy Triplett, who is our water quality and lab coordinator, for compiling not only compiling the information, but also preparing the report. And also to Beth McGinnis, I know she's our emergency manager, but she also has a knack for being able to review documents for readability. And frankly, that's a tough thing to do with this because so much of the language is required and is very regulatory in nature. So tried to make it a little bit more user-friendly with graphics and so on. So big thank you to them. Also in your packet, there was a question, I think at the last board meeting, about the different positions at CRW. So
Thank
we
you.
provided a breakdown that provides not only the positions, the number of people in those positions, what department they're part of, and then whether it's a position that's in part of management or representing staff. We will note that there are a few positions that we haven't fully figured out yet, and so we just listed them, but haven't categorized them yet. And then as far as the last thing I want to bring to your attention is the monthly report, but I do want to touch on a few things in that monthly report. Actually, I think you have two monthly reports, the
Yes.
May and the June, so I'm going to focus on the June. May, remember, we emailed that out late, but we wanted to make sure you had a hard copy as well. On the June reports, there's some items that items as it relates to our revenues and expenses that are listed on page 5 are tracking. So that's all good news. One thing I will point out is you will notice a pretty good jump from previous year for our capital outlay. And so the good news is all the stuff that we've been waiting for, is some of it's actually starting to come through. And so that's nice. We're still going to be well short of the total capital outlay budget, but at least we've made a little bit of progress with respect to that. The other points, move to page 6, we already talked about the shutoffs, and so I thought that was a good illustration as it related to the bad debt issue. Page 7, I do want to give a little bit of a shout out to our distribution staff who've been making some major progress as it relates to the meter replacements this year compared to previous years. So that's those big gray bars. So you'll see those tower over the other previous years for a number of months. And so that's good. We're actually, the goal is 350, and so there are 223, so much more progress than in the past. Page 8, with the drier weather, we can focus a little bit more on leak detection, and so that's illustrated in that second column where we've got a number of miles of leak detection that we've been able to be successful with. Actually, I've already got half of the year done with respect to that, so that's good progress as well. And then speaking of drier weather, we've seen a bit more on water production this last month. So that's shown on page 11, excuse me, of the report. And then also point out that we have switched to the snow graphic, from the snow graphic to the river graphic in your report. So, what that does show is a pretty significant drop in the river, which is typical for this time of year. However, it is a good drop. So something we'll have to be watching closely as we proceed on. Good news is we had a good snowpack year, but bad news is we're forecasted for hotter, drier period for this summer so far. So that's what I wanted to highlight in that report. In the report itself, I'm going to do something a little different. I want to have Adam Bjornstick come up and share some news about 2 of the grant-funded projects that are highlighted in the management report, item 2 and 3. So, Adam.
Good evening, everyone. As Todd wrote into the report, I don't want to read it verbatim, but just have it there for talking points. 2 of our projects that we had applied for grants through the FEMA hazard mitigation program. As you know, the Redland Road, well, let me back up a step. The first one is the Redland Road water line replacement project. Now, this is the phase one of a really a two-part project where we know that the second phase we had received a grant for. This first phase was the one that we're partnering with the county because they're doing roadway improvements between Ferguson and Bradley Road out there on Redland. That's the one where we we come to the board and asked for your approval for a not to exceed construction amount to the IGA with the county. And the county got bids on the entire project. And good news, they got a low bid that was about $64,000 under our engineer's estimate for the water work. That's just the water piece. That came in at right about $284,000 for that. Now that work, as a reminder, is just for the construction. So that's the one also where we had purchased pipe and other materials so that we wouldn't be on the critical path with the county and holding anything up. So that pipe is happily sitting in our yard waiting to get taken out there and installed. So the overall project cost, assuming that installation bid of 284, if I recall, we spent about 170 or so on the pipe material. So what's that, about 450,000 for the total cost for that project. Anyway, the good news there is, of course, we're moving forward with construction on that, all under the county's schedule. They're looking at, I think, end of this month or mid-July, depending on a couple factors with their contract, with their contractor. And yeah, secondly is a grant-related project, a new one. This actually is really exciting. We had, if you recall, we had applied to FEMA in two applications. One again was the Redland Road Phase 2, and then also the I-205 crossings projects. And if you recall in the budget, the upcoming budget, we have, those are broken up into two projects. There's the Hanson Court crossing, and then also the Jansen Road crossing north of the interchange here. Well, we applied for the grant with both of those lumped together, and we received notice that we are awarded the grant just, I guess last week, 2 weeks ago. So again, another one where we've been successful with the grant application. Very excited about that. This one, because of the total dollar amount, the FEMA and the state are not requiring a phasing of sorts to allocate funds in chunks. So we are going to receive, as we spend it, we'll get around $950,000 of 100% cost coverage. So originally, those FEMA grants are a 75-25 share, but two parts to that. The FEMA enacted some legislation where it became a 90% share that they covered, and then the 10% was on the sub-applicant, which is us. But the state also passed a bill, and I can't remember the number, where through a program, they are covering the out-of-pocket costs. So it's 100% cost reimbursement. And I did put in there that it's 100% of the funding applied, 100% of the funding applied for towards the cost of the work. So the reason I put that, reading between the lines, is if we were to expend, beyond that based on costs, because if you look in the budget book, you'll see that those two projects add up to more than $950,000. That's because we updated those costs for the budget with inflation and other factors. Seeing some recent pricing, we're optimistic that those costs won't be higher. If we do end up spending more out of pocket, we'll just pay for those costs out of pocket. So good news is we're getting the money, but again, if we spend over that amount, then there's an adjustment. We're paying for those additional costs out of pocket. But still, all told, I'm very excited again to get another couple of projects grant funding.
Awesome job.
Thank you.
Nice job.
So Ed, can you tell us with NCRW how grants are applied for? Is there somebody that's on point for writing grants?
Oh, can I answer this?
Sure.
Collaboration.
Yeah.
Look at it.
So I wanted Adam to come out and give you the details on the two grants, but I wanted to follow up with the fact that a lot of this goes to Adam as far as pursuing us, putting materials together. When we got some assistance from one company, but frankly, he had to do the heavy lifting on this, pursuing this, responding to the multiple questions that we then get from the state. And so, frankly, the point person, Bob, was Adam. The other point to note though, and I want to make sure that the board understands, actions that you take have results, is a while back, we had adopted a natural hazard mitigation plan. And that was something kind of unique for a special district. And so frankly, that was one of those documents that was put in place that enabled us to access this money. And then frankly, just identifying and pursuing those, again, a lot of credit goes to Adam for kind of seeking out and having those discussions and doing that. So thank you. I haven't had a chance to publicly say this, but the impact, we're just talking about impact to ratepayers. That's nearly $2 million, right, that our ratepayers will not have to pay, that are going towards projects that are identified as important critical projects for us to do. So there's a number of storylines here. And then the Redland Road, I think the unique thing with that is the fact that that's not only is we're getting that grant funded, but also the cooperation with the county and the staging with that, and then frankly, how we've overcome some of the supply chain challenges by pre-ordering pipe and stuff. So there's a number of, I smile and you can tell I get a little excited when we talk about this sort of stuff, because I think it's a great thing to be able to highlight, and again, thank you for all your work on that, Adam. Appreciate it.
And I do want to go on record with saying the state Office of Emergency Management has been very, very helpful through this process. I've worked in this industry for quite a long time and have not had the service before. Have had good experiences, but this has been really the top of the mountain, so to speak. A couple individuals there really helped us through the application and then the pre-award, and even now is continuing to be great assistance to helping us make these happen. So, and the other thing was kind of along what Todd said was really, we're excited about where this places us in the queue. Some of the concept here with getting our foot in the door with this, with the specific grant with FEMA, but also with other ones. Understanding the process, understanding the ins and outs of it, and then looking at other projects like the treatment plant, certain aspects of that could be eligible for grants. So we're continuing to keep our eyes open for those opportunities.
Great work.
Well, it's not an easy process. I used to be involved with looking for grants for a nonprofit. It's a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have to know what you're doing. You've got to have your facts. You have to be able to answer the questions 16 times over because they keep asking
They
them.
keep asking the same,
I know,
I did a grant once.
Yeah, no, so it takes a lot of work and a lot of dedication. And I appreciate the fact that you take it on and you do it so diligently. And that $2 million is huge.
Yeah.
For us, and hats off, Adam.
Thank you.
Excellent job.
Appreciate it.
Well done.
You get the Good Boy Award for the month, how's that?
Question on the nuts and bolts on the Hanson Court and Jansen Road crossing.
Mhm.
Will that be done with lateral drilling and no disturbing of the road bed?
That's correct. Yeah, we'll do unidirectional drilling under the freeway on both of those
I
locations.
can just see construction crews out on that
Oh,
freeway.
yeah. No doubt. I'm
No
excited
doubt
about
about
that.
All right,
All right.
thank you again.
Just a couple quick things. Please note on item 4 in the manager report, the board meeting changes to board meeting dates. And so that impacts our July board meeting is July 20th. It's a Thursday, so we're shifting that a little bit later. And then our February board meeting conflicts with the SDAO conference. And so we're gonna propose changing that to Tuesday, February 6th. So it actually just moved it earlier in that week. So may make a little bit of a challenge on some financial reporting stuff, but I think that works well for everyone. And then just some other items as far as looking ahead, our office will be closed on June 19th to observe the Juneteenth holiday. our agenda setting meeting will be for July, for the July board meeting will be on Thursday, June 29th at 9 a.m. And then, of course, I already talked about the July 20th meeting. One thing you do have on your calendar a work session for June 26th. And so we are probably gonna need to have either a work session or exec session at that point.
I will not be here.
Okay. Well, I'll brief you independently then. So please keep that on your calendar. One thing, I guess, I'd be curious on is, if it is only an executive session, would people be opposed to maybe meeting earlier? But I don't.
Is this June 26th, you said?
Correct.
I will not be available that day.
That's two of us.
Okay.
So maybe we want to have a different day for a work session?
Okay,
there's
we'll have
three
to
of
work
us.
with schedules and maybe see if we have to do a special meeting or something.
Yeah, because with two of us gone, there's only 3 board members left, and if you're doing an executive meeting, it doesn't seem like a really good idea.
Okay, well, we're probably gonna need something, but unfortunately, we'll try to schedule.
I am home at the rest of the week. I'm flying back from Chicago on the 26th, so
Okay.
anytime after that is fine with me.
Is a Tuesday, the following day, Tuesday, an option, Commissioner Donnell?
I'm out that entire week.
Oh, that entire week, okay.
Yeah. And it's a road trip, so I don't even know if I'll have access to the internet. That's why I even hesitate to say Zoom. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm out that entire week, but I'm around the following week and the week before.
All right. Stay tuned. We might, if I can get 4 of you together, that would be good. And then I'll brief the 5th one independently. So, well, with that is, okay, can we kind of tentatively plan on the 25th, and then Commissioner Donnell,
The June?
or.
Is that
I'm
a
sorry.
Sunday? I can
Sorry,
actually
I'm
do
sorry,
Sunday.
I had the wrong month.
I could do Sunday, the
June
25th.
27th, which would be a Tuesday.
She's out the whole week, I think.
I understand, but I
Yeah.
would just brief you when you got back.
That's fine. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so June 27th. And then if it is an exec session for the remainder, is it possible to meet earlier, like late afternoon?
I don't have a
Yeah.
problem.
Like 5 p.m. or something?
Or 4,
4.
just tell us whatever the restriction is and we'll.
That's a Tuesday?
Yep.
I can make 4, I can make 5.
Okay, let's plan on 4 o'clock Tuesday, the 27th. Okay. We'll do that, perfect. And then Commissioner Donnell, I'll circle back with you.
Perfect.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. The last thing, some items not in the report, actually, the last item that's not in the report is, I just want to report to the board that the Clackamas River Water Providers did approve the agreements that you approved at your last board meeting.
Okay.
So they did their step, and so we will be providing some emergency planning assistance to the CRWP members. And that's being accomplished with Beth McGinnis, our emergency manager, providing some of her time, roughly about a 0.2 FTE, or 20% of her time to that project, which we will of course get reimbursed for. So with that concludes my report.
Back to leak detection in the management report. We put in the budget to start doing that by remote sensing. Would that kick in this July or
So
another time?
our plan with that would be to look to acquire those services next spring. then that gives us time to plan and incorporate that into our summer, which is the prime season, summer leak detection, because there is a field aspect to that even after we get the data from the satellite service. So if we tried it this year, we would just not have enough time to get the data and then. move
So
forward.
next season.
Yeah, correct.
Thanks, Adam.
And if I can say,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be talking with Sunrise at the Water Authority tomorrow. If you recall, there was a comment made during the budget hearing or committee meeting about possibly partnering with them and maybe seeing some cost savings with shared data. So we'll be having that conversation.
Good deal.
So Todd, you mentioned the meter installations. How many are we looking at? I mean, how many do we have to do?
Oh, our goal is 350 a year.
Out of how many?
Domestic meters.
Domestic
about
meters.
over 9,000.
Yeah, 9 to 10.
But the caveat there is that these are, we don't, there was a time long ago when we had a set date, I think it was 20 years, a 20-year life on a meter. But, and then it was up for automatic replacement. We basically pulled meters, tested them in our shop, the ones that were around that era, and found they were still operating fine. So there was really no functional reason to go out and start pulling perfectly good meters. So these meters, the 300, 350 a year, are ones that are either known issues or, you know, they're right on the verge of that, of some sort of useful life.
Okay, because obviously that'd be like a 30-year plan at that
Right.
rate.
Right.
So, okay.
But Adam's still gonna be out there replacing those meters.
You bet.
Todd, do you have a hiring update for us on key positions?
Nothing to report. We're still looking for we have 3 positions that we're currently recruiting for: the CFO position, the water resource manager position, and the administrative records management position. We did fill our summer help position, so Joseph Jansen is going to join us again. He actually was helpful last summer, and so it's awesome having him back and around again. So we filled that item, yeah, we did receive an announcement of a retirement of one of our water treatment process specialists, Steve Beach. But if you recall, we got ahead of the game where we actually hired 2 water treatment process specialists last time, given the last retirement. So we feel pretty good about the coverage. So we don't see that as a need to right now in essence, we planned for his retirement. So we're good there.
Okay.
So you have candidates in the funnel for the CFO and the water resource manager?
We did conducted 2 more interviews. We're preparing for the second round interviews. So the water resource manager has been a tough position. So we have not had a lot of response. Very thankful to have Travis Andrews on contracts and who's doing a great job and assisting us in that regard. So at least we've got excellent experienced help in that regard right now, but no, that is a concern.
Any other questions or comments? Tessa, anything?
No,
Just want to make sure you're awake.
I am. Yep.
Sort of, okay.
I've got my tiny little phone screen on,
Oh my
Okay,
gosh.
so Commissioner.
but I have the emailed documents Karen sent me on the laptop, so it's helpful. They're at least bigger.
All right. Okay, next thing, any public comment? Further down the line, no, all right. Okay, now we go to commissioner reports.
Okay.
Naomi?
Last night we had the Regional Water Board, that's what I call it, it's got a longer title. And the main thing in our agenda was to adopt our strategic plan. And just so that you know, this is a consortium of the water districts all around the Tri-County area. And they have some major focus areas. So we adopted the initiatives for meeting water needs. So we have regional water needs. Oh, by the way, Kevin is going to be the
Oh,
new
yeah, he's
chair.
he's
The new
new
chair.
Congratulations.
I'm still on the executive committee as the Clackamas County representative at this point. The second focus area, which is emergency prep and resiliency, and they did talk a lot about how grateful they are to Clackamas River Water for providing the Riverside Park for some of the emergency workshops or whatever you would call it, where they all get together and see how things work. And then the third major area is strengthening regional partnerships. So not just partnering between the water districts, but also partnering with other entities that would need to be on board in case of emergencies or water needs. And that was it. And just for the side, I love being on regional water, and I will be glad to continue that role for as long as everybody doesn't mind my being on it. So.
Okay, Rusty? No NCCWC?
No NCCWC
Whatever.
since last time.
Okay, and then I know you, I don't think they ever meet anymore. All right, oh, I guess that's me. All right, real quick, Sunrise did pass their budget and authorized the reserve fund. They adopted a new employee handbook. A lot of work went into that. And basically that's about their meeting. So it was really quick. Chris popped through that really fast. You know, they too, I mean, they've got workforce issues just like everybody else and stuff. Oak Lodge, there were two meetings. They had their board meeting after their budget committee. They had 4 budget committee hearings. On the 4th one, they passed their budget. And then at their board meeting, they didn't pass it. It went down 4-1.
Oh.
Yeah. So then they held another meeting Tuesday night. Thank God you guys are done. Well, you got one more meeting, Kevin, right? Okay. And they cut their budget, some, and there were some issues. I don't envy any of you having to come up with what you came up with. Had to be a tough struggle. They're delaying personnel hires and transfers. You know, they have, you know, their water treatment plant has some things that they need to do with that. And so they're working diligently on those numbers. Good luck with the next meeting, Kevin. I hope it goes smoothly. I did appreciate everything you did say Tuesday night. I thought it needed to be said, and you did a really good job. So, and the impact of C4 didn't have a meeting because they were retreating at Mount Hood, and impact was the same: housing, transportation, and tolling. Okay, that's it. That's for that. All right, now for the entertainment portion of the evening, we need to elect officers for the 2023-2024 year. So Clackamas River Water has 3 positions: board president, board secretary, and board treasurer. So at this time, I will take nominations for board president.
Tessa, would you like to make a nomination?
I would actually, thank you. I'd like to move to nominate Sherry French for board president.
Second the nomination.
All right, any other nominations? All right, yes, we vote.
Commissioner Ancher.
Yes.
Commissioner Donnell.
Yes.
Commissioner French.
Yes.
Commissioner Garrison.
Yes.
Commissioner Rubischen.
Yes.
I'll talk to you in the parking lot.
Passes unanimously.
Everybody clear out quick, I got something to say to Rusty. Thank you, everyone, oh my gosh. All right. Okay, the second one is for board secretary nominations.
Okay, I nominate Danelle Tessa for, Tessa Danelle, sorry. I'm nominating Tessa Danelle for board secretary.
I'll second that.
And,
Any other, I'm sorry, any other nominations? I'm still, I can't tell you how many times I get named practice like that. No, other, all right, then call for a vote.
Commissioner Ranger.
Yes,
Commissioner Danell.
Yes.
Commissioner French.
Yes.
Commissioner Garrison.
Yes.
Commissioner Rubenstein.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Oh, we have so much fun doing this. All right, third is for treasurer nominations. I nominate, no, see, I can't even talk. I nominate Bob Derbyshire.
I'll second that nomination.
Any other nominations? Okay.
And you seconded Commissioner Garrison.
Yes, I did.
Commissioner Ranger.
yes,
Commissioner Danell.
Yes.
Commissioner French.
Yes.
Commissioner Garrison.
Yes.
Commissioner Rubenstein.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, so your officers are for 23-24 are Sherry French president, Tessa Danelle as secretary, and Bob Rubischen as treasurer. All right, is there anything else that needs to come before this
I
meeting?
just thought I'd shake things up a little, have
In your spare time?
I just think, Tessa Danelle is such a talented person that I thought that'd be nice for her
Oh,
to, I've been doing
Thank
this for
you.
long enough. And I
Thank you,
thought it
Naomi.
was time to get some new blood in that position, so just wanted you to know why.
I'm glad we got through the process without shedding any blood.
Right, yeah, nobody. But I do want to, for the record, I want to stay on the regional water board for as long as you let me, because that's what's it worth to me.
oh dear.
Well, I would just like to again shout out this document that Todd talked about. If you've not read it, it's a very readable document. It's full of really good information, and I learned quite a bit. So I was just really pleased with how they captured the topics and stayed at the right level of detail.
Yeah, it
So
wasn't overwhelming and
it
stuff.
was
It's
not
easy, it's an
overwhelming.
easy read. Yeah.
It's a very well-written document.
Good. Oh, I do have another question. So the agenda setting meeting is June 29th, and we already know that Commissioner Danelle will not be here that whole week. So
You don't take offices until July.
you don't take offices till July, so did you
July
want
1.
me to go to it?
The
Or
board-
is
board
it
meeting in
automatic?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
would still
that's-
attend.
Okay, so
Yeah.
then
Your
really take
capacity
offices
now.
till July.
The
Okay,
July
Not
board
off-
meeting.
not off the hook.
okay, no, that's fine, I'll be around then, I just was double checking. You don't have to do anything until July for your position. That's-
Perfect. Thank you.
Gee, everybody sounds so enthusiastic. Overwhelming.
Well, July's a lot more calm for me. June, I'm traveling more of the month than I'm not.
Oh, for June, okay.
Yeah, for June.
Okay. All right, is there anything else?
No, I will send you an email, Karen, because I looked at the dates on August and I'm not gonna be at that meeting. But I'll be at the work session now that you changed it to Tuesday.
At 4 o'clock.
Good. At 4 o'clock, after I'm done.
All right, is there anything else? All right, again, thank you, Tim. Thanks for showing up. Is everything okay now? You're happy we passed it and it's all, we're all good?
Absolutely.
All right.
Just like clockwork.
All right. And Adam, thank you so much for all your hard work. You're amazing.
You know what happens when you start showing up at these board meetings, then if something happens to a board member,
Guess who we call?
people like Bob get to be on the board, because he was showing up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
On some boards, if you don't show up, then you get elected. That's you really want to. All right, thank you, everyone. Thanks to staff and everybody that helped with all this work. I appreciate it. This meeting is adjourned.